Welcome back and thanks for staying with us tonight on In Focus. South Africa is bracing for an all-important election in 2024, and the country's elections authority, the Independent Electoral Commission, has had to deal with criticism that it has been presiding over declining standards of elections, blamed largely on dwindling budgets. The poll will also arrive amid a disgruntled electorate and issues around political party funding. The newly adopted Electoral Reform Bill and its impact on independence may itself pose a headache for the IEC. Joining us now to share his thoughts on a wide range of issues facing the body is Mosotho Moepya, who took over the reins this month. I suppose congratulations are in order on all broad terms, Mr. Moepya, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mzuli, and I'm grateful for your thoughts. I'd like to greet our viewers right here.
Over 2 decades at the IEC, do you think this current deadline that is seemingly going to be a little bit of a challenge if, for example, civil society are going to take the Electoral Amendment Bill to court, would be the toughest gig you've ever had to face?
Well, there is no one election that is the same as the other. It would seem to me that in this election, in this upcoming elections, indeed, we will deal with not only the change to the legislation, but we may be dealing with activism. That is important, but activism that must be well informed and that must help shape the future of our country. It is not apparent to me right now what all the issues are. I think some of it is information that needs to be clarified. Some of it are concerns that must be dealt with. And some of those are issues that are germane to the Constitutional Court decision that must be implemented before the elections. And so our position as the Electoral Commission is that all of this clarity needs to be brought, to the voters, to citizens, and to all of us so that we all prepare for elections appropriately.
Now, if indeed what the African National Congress and some of the other parties that voted with it are saying is true, that really the Constitutional Court, all they wanted to do is to guarantee that independent candidates can also stand. What does that mean in terms of the work that you are supposed to do as the IEC and the quality of the elections in 2024? Well,
we understand the Constitutional Court to have said that the Electoral Act is unconstitutional in its current form, in that it does not permit persons to stand as individuals. In other words, without an association to a political party in an election of the National Assembly or the provincial legislature. You will be aware that in local government, the legislation does provide for individuals to stand as independent candidates at local level or in the local sphere of government. That is not the case with the national sphere of government. It's also not the case with the provincial sphere. Our understanding is that the court wanted that shortcoming to be corrected, to be cured, as it were, so that independent candidates could stand. Our understanding is that the bill, as it stands at the moment, seeks to have independent candidates to stand as the court said they should. What I don't understand, or we don't understand at the Commission, as the court having said, and that's really the issue. We understand, quite rightly so, that South Africans are saying perhaps we should be talking widely about changes to electoral system and not just what the court has said. But having said that, one must take into account the amount of time we have to conduct the 2024 elections. we don't have a very long time. If, for example, as I understand many people to be saying, that we need a constituency-based electoral system, that would require a body, for example, that would be set in law, just like the Municipal Demarcation Board would do in the case of municipal boundaries. We would need a body that would have to deal with boundaries that are required at provincial and at national level.
Yeah.
And that body does not exist at the moment. Yeah. The Municipal Demarcation Board is not that body. And so that will take a little while. And so our concern is that all of these things need to be addressed. Citizens need to be informed appropriately. And then we need to prepare for that election in earnest.
So, I mean, I gather what you're saying, that as you come out of the AWEB, a multifaceted and inclusive approach for South Africa maybe is still a long while away in terms of systems that we still need to put in place. It might be a little bit more inclusive if we follow, of course, the direction of the Constitutional Court and have individuals being able to participate outside of political party structures, but it's not yet multifaceted as per the wish, for example, of civil society, who want the direct proportional representation and constituency almost mixed together.
I'm afraid that is the truth and the absolute truth. The alternative is very scary, Mr. Mdluli, in that if, as everyone says, the 2024 elections are in many ways going to be very, very important elections, I think it will be important to have those prepared for well and citizens informed just as well about them. In the current environment where we are, I sometimes get concerned that with the amount of misunderstanding we may be having, or the populace might be having, we work as though 2024 is not that important, and it is in fact important. And so we need to know what options we have. We need to know what work needs to be done to accomplish that. And from where I sit, I think it's in fact that clear that we just do not have time for constituencies to be established in time for the 2024 elections.
Have you wrapped your head around the idea of Thabo Mdlulis and the likes and others, Kolanis and everybody else who, I suppose if their pockets are deep enough and they're able to meet the threshold, you would now need to add onto the ballot paper?
That is the question that we must all embrace and deal with. We must find ways that, all the people you have mentioned are able reasonably to participate in an election. You see, I don't think the court was saying just anyone who wants to stand must be able to stand for no reason or whatever. It really is saying that, the law must not prohibit persons that have support or are able to show that they can muster support to stand as independent candidates and win or contest, not necessarily win, but contest reasonably so. And that is the test we need to pass. To the extent that there may be concerns around that, that is, in my view, where we will be addressing, as society that is, we will be addressing the correct issue. But to argue, in my view, about whether it's constituency now or never, we are in fact going to impact an election that we all want in a way that would appear as if we don't want it.
In terms of course, the laws, they're not made by you as the IEC, they are made in Parliament. And if we look at the bill as it sits right now, then it is brought to you. Of course, you're supposed to regularize it and come out with regulations of how it's going to be implemented in practice. Do you have any views around those thresholds and the fairness in terms of many people are saying, well, political parties, of course, don't want independents to come in and eat their pie, so they would want to set those thresholds so high?
Well, I need to say this. We as the Commission have assisted the Portfolio Committee on the technical aspects of the bill. We are fully aware of the fact that we should not be taking political decisions. In other words, those policy decisions are taken by the legislature. And so they have been, and we are grateful to parliamentarians, they have never sought to drag us into decisions and debates we should not be involved in. So the choices of where the threshold should be is not a technical choice per se. It's a political choice. But having said so, parliamentarians have understood what this threshold is able to do, or what it's able to influence. And I think choices have been made. There have been robust decisions or discussions, rather, and those discussions have happened where we provided technical information. I understand that there may be a desire for those numbers to be increased on the one hand or to be decreased on the other hand. It is a fine balance that the legislature is trying to accomplish. But we are satisfied that the issue is very clearly and well understood by the people that are making that decision.
Taking chairmanship of the Association of World Election Bodies, what is your agenda over the next 2 years in terms of building the resilience of electoral management bodies that you're going to be overseeing?
Well, there are a number of things, really. I think what we have seen in 2019, 2020, and 2021, we still see that today. COVID has unveiled quite a number of things that we have hitherto not given serious thought to. The fact that the work we do requires extensive gathering of people and working within communities, which COVID prohibited to a large extent, has raised the question about how do we shift our focus and yet continue to deliver on the mandate we are given as electoral management bodies. And this is not an easy challenge we face. We have seen dwindling electoral support in normal circumstances, and with COVID, that situation was compounded. And so one of the major challenges that we confront today is to deal with the issue where we are finding that it would seem that participation in elections or electoral activity is in fact taking the beating at the moment. We will need to deal with that within our members. We have 120 member EMBs or members that are in the association. We need to create the awareness. We need to ensure that the quality of elections, delivered by AWEB members is in fact cumulatively improving. But we also need to worry about those that are not participating in this engagement, in this discourse, because the mature democracies we have known hitherto are in fact taking a beating at the moment. The US, Europe, Canada, Australia, all of these democracies are in fact, dealing with headwinds that we are also seeing. And so that is the part we will need to work on. We will also need to work on, looking at the quality of people that participate or that conduct elections, who work for EMBs, particularly in our region, in Africa, where we are. This is the greatest moment for us to find a common cause and look at how best we help one another. It is not good to have islands of perfection, where elections in this part of the world, are done well, but in other parts of the world, not so well. The world is a global village. We really have to find equalizers. And those are some of the challenges we need to embrace whilst we sit in the chair of AWEB and raise the awareness, the quality of elections, the standard of conducting elections, but generally to find those who have best practices, to share those practices with their counterparts, and to humbly have those that need to learn from others, brought to the table without shame on their part.
Yeah. And finally, as we wrap up, I mean, the last elections that you were still commissioner then, and we were involved with yourselves in terms of broadcast, there were, of course, some challenges that were faced that almost seemed to derail the work and bring some questions around the elections' integrity. Are you going to be bringing particular changes to the ecosystem that we could expect for 2024?
Elections are a major undertaking. They're not a simple thing in my view, and I say that with great humility. In an election where you open up 23,000 voting stations all at the same time, and you close them all at the same time, and you have people who are very different, unique people, like 260,000 people that you employ, something's going to go wrong. For us who are practitioners, the test is how quickly you deal with that situation when it occurs. Two, to minimize situations that are not normal, very quickly and ensure that they are kept to a minimum. That really is the challenge. It's not the issue of nothing is going to go wrong. Something will certainly go wrong. It's how you deal with it, you correct it, and you deal with it in a manner that brings dignity to the whole undertaking that you have, the conduct of an election on that single day. And so for us, it is, it's not something we're going to hide and say, all it's perfectly well. We're saying to you that as we look at the situation, we are well prepared. We have looked at alternative ways of handling challenges that arise. And so when they arise, we will quickly deal with them. That must be the standard, by which we are judged. But that we will have nothing go wrong, it'll be a miracle.
So I appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much for coming on. Mosotho Moepya, the IEC chairperson, and of course also chairing the broader body called AWEB, looking at electoral management bodies in about 120 or so regions.